Welcome to the Digital Asset Management module of the DigiPhoto Quick Start Guide. In the world of digital photography, making images is one part of the equation and managing the images is another. This module will explain how to manage your digital images and back them up for your protection. So we have seen our digital workflow diagram before, and in this particular module we're going to be focusing on the digital darkroom side of things and looking at the flow of capturing our images, moving them to the computer, and making sure that they are organized and backed up on the computer. In order to prevent a digital mess on our desktop where we have images and folders with images all over the place, we are trying to recommend a process whereby we create an archive of our images that eliminates this mess. This process starts by taking the images from our memory cards and transferring them into a folder that we label as Photo Archive, and we give it a date. And this photo archive you may create once a year, once every 2 years, depending upon the number of photographs that you take and how large your archive actually becomes. Within the archive, we then create a folder every time we take images and transfer them into the archive. So if we have a trip that we went on, or if there is an event that we have photographed, we create a folder, name the folder with the event title and a date, and then put all of the images of that event in that folder, and subsequently that folder is nested inside the photo archive. And the reason we're doing this is related to backup, which we will get to here in a minute. But it's important to have a structure that we follow in order to prevent ourselves from the mess that we potentially could have. Now, the software to manage our images, or the digital asset management software that's out there, provides a number of different functions. One of the functions is for us to be able to look at all these images that are in all of these different folders. And we can look at them from one place, so even though the images are in different folders, the software knows where these folders reside and presents us thumbnails of these images for us to look at. And then subsequently we can work with these in the digital darkroom. The other thing that the software does is it provides us the ability to rename these images, because when they come out of the camera they're going to have some structure of naming that the camera put on them. So we can rename them to match our particular naming schemes that we've created for ourselves, organize them into different kinds of collections, add keywords to them. Any picture that has a fish in it, we can add a keyword of fish, search on fish, and we'll get fish pictures to review. We can edit and enhance the pictures with the capabilities that are provided by the software tools. As mentioned, we can find these images then based on our keywords or our organizational structure, and we can change the format as required for different usages. So if you're going to print an image versus putting an image on the internet, you may need different file formats and different quality levels out of your photographs. And then as well, sending your images requires them to be changed into a file type and a file size that will work with email or work on the internet. So the management tool provides a great opportunity for a one-stop place to go to take care of all of these functions related to our image. And correspondingly, all of the information that we do add to the image is stored with the image in what's called metadata. So this is basically a database that has information that resides with the image and within the database itself. There are many ways to back up your images, and we're going to recommend a very simple way. But the whole structure that we've described here is designed to keep things simple, so backup is an easy thing to do. So instead of having to search all over to find all your images that you want to back up, they're all stored in your photo archive. When it comes to backing up and managing your photographs within an archive and in conjunction with the software, there's a fundamental choice that needs to be made, which is basically whether or not the software that you have selected, and in this case we're recommending Adobe Elements, for example. Within Adobe Elements there is a tool called an organizer, and the images that we create can either be imported into the software. So the images in our archive actually live inside of the digital asset management software. And the software is looking at the images every time we change them, updating the information associated with that image, and then also keeping those images within its software structure. There is an alternative way to organize the images in relationship to the asset management software, and that is to use what's referred to as a referenced setup. And the reference setup is different in that we use the digital asset management software for all of the functions that we have described, but we don't store the images inside of the digital asset management software itself. We tell the software where our images reside on our computer, and the software keeps track of the images and all of the data inside of the software, but the images themselves are not inside of the digital asset management software. Now, this provides us some interesting options. First of all, we're keeping our photos in our own folder structure, in our own file structure. We know where those original images are. We need to be mindful of importing images into an asset management software because sometimes it is difficult to get them out. When we keep our own structure, our own folder structure that's outside of the software, it opens up the opportunity for us to use different asset management tools on our images. So if we wanted to use Adobe Elements, but then we also decided that we wanted to use Lightroom, which is another example of a management tool, we can actually use more than one tool and take advantages of each of these tools by keeping the images outside of the software and just telling the software we want you to go work on this set of images. And then, of course, we need to remember that when we do change from one particular asset management software to another, the metadata that's associated with our files that has all the information about what color changes or adjustments we made inside of the software, we may lose that metadata. So there are advantages and disadvantages in either situation. You probably want to consider both. I found it, for my particular purposes, much more versatile to have the images outside of the asset management software, as I have had to change on more than one occasion and found it very difficult to make that change when the images actually reside inside of the management software. Now, there are a variety of these tools out there. There's iPhoto, there's Aperture. Both of those are strictly Apple products. There's Expression Media, there is Adobe Bridge, and Adobe Lightroom, for example. So there are quite a few of these, and they all have a similar look to them as you have seen here. We are recommending the Adobe Elements tool because of its cost effectiveness and its simplicity, and as well, everything that you learn in general related to Adobe Elements can be applied should you choose to upgrade to Photoshop. And as well, the Camera Raw utility that we use in Elements is essentially the same tool that's used in Photoshop and in Lightroom. So you're kind of working within a system, and you are not required to start over with your learning if you stay within this Adobe system, for example. And of course, the other advantage is that there are both PC and Mac versions of the software. So depending on what platform you're on, you have that option. Now, in this case, we see here that the organizer component of Adobe Elements has opened up inside of the photo manipulation tool of Elements. So we can access all of our images and open them within Adobe Elements. And we have all of the advantages of Adobe Elements image manipulation tools available to us, including some very nice sharing tools and editing tools. And here is where the power of the software through the use of layers, and now with the latest version, the ability to have layer masks, you have an extremely powerful tool to use that is less than $100 that can take care of your photo organization, your raw processing using Camera Raw, and any image manipulation that you want to do. Very powerful, very cost effective. The final part of this whole thing is that regardless of all the work that we have done in organizing and capturing and manipulating our images, if we don't back them up, we are asking for trouble in that all of this computer hardware ultimately has the potential to fail. So we copy our pictures to our computer, and then we want to as well copy them to 2 additional external hard drives. So we have all of our original content that's contained within the computer that we're working on. And we want to take that photo archive and we want to back that photo archive up on another hard drive that's external to our computer. Then we want a second hard drive, and we want to back up that photo archive onto this second drive. Now this second drive we keep off-site, meaning we place it in some other location in case there's a fire or a flood. Our images are protected as well in this second drive. And then of course there are also online backup services that you can look at and basically store your off-site backup online somewhere as well, should you choose to go in that direction. So failure to back up your images is an invitation for digital disaster. Equipment failures and viruses can cause total destruction of your image archive. So back up your work on a regular basis.